M6 is really the first floor where skill matters. Like, you can play M3 or M5 pretty easily without even knowing what you're doing, but M6, you'll get clowned on by higher catas for not knowing what to do. And the best part is most of these higher catas don't even know what they're doing themselves. Now, I have like 4,000 or something runs on M6 and know exactly what I'm doing on this floor to the point where I literally end up teaching one person what to do every time I join an M6P finder. And after explaining how to Mage for like the 200th time, I'm getting bored of this, so I decided it's finally time to make a video on M6. So without further ado, please enjoy the best M6 guide on the entire internet. On M6, you should be running no dupes, period. Every class has a role, and the floor gets exponentially harder for every missing class. Under Kata 46 and normally under Kata 48, it's recommended that you play fake mage instead of real mage, or play the mage class using archer gear. This isn't really because true mage is hard or bad in master mode. In fact, it's actually really good. It's because it requires a massive cash investment and a lot of practice to clear well at lower katas and not have hypermax gear. And lower kata players don't have this practice yet, even if they have the gear. In terms of gear, everyone should have a few essentials. By now, you should have an ice spray, a gyro, infiniboom, infinileap, a good DPS pet like an E-drag or a G-drag, master stars in your gear, preferably at least 9-star gear, good talisman, a tier 5 beacon, and most importantly, gauntlet of contagion, implosion belt, and die ahead. You will struggle to clear with the gold head, and although it's possible, your clear will be so slow that it's just not worth it. Also, gauntlet of contagion is absolutely broken for clearing in boss, and implosion belt actually buffs the damage gauntlet does, making it even more broken, so you need both of these. Also, if you're running a term build, make sure to recomp and reforge all your accessories to waxed. If you're running true mage, you need 2 sets of storm, an LCM set and an RCM set. You can run storm helmet with your LCM set for a small DPS increase over diamond head, but you lose a lot of EHP for a small damage buff, so it's not necessary at all, and you should definitely still have a diamond head. You should also run at least a tier 6 giant sword with soul eater, but preferably at least tier 6 claymore with soul eater. A good rule of thumb is if you're going to buy any tier 7 enchants, get a claymore. Also, every class should be running a suspicious Estrella with a sapphire and an amethyst gemstones, or 2 amethyst gemstones, depending on how good your survivability is. All classes should be using smite, prosecute, giant killer, and thunderlord in your Estrella, and you should prioritize those enchants and critical to get them to the highest level possible as fast as possible. As true mage, your LCM weapon should have prosecute, sharpness, giant killer, thunderlord, and first strike, and you should prioritize getting those enchants in critical as high level as possible first. My claymore and Estrella are correctly enchanted if you want to copy off of them. Also, quick note, this is around the level where it's a good idea to start running max sword boots in clear and swapping to Necron boots in boss for extra speed during clear. Now, the best way to reforge your term is going to be using a spiritual term with warrior, crit chance on your beacon, crit chance on your enrichments, and speed tuning. With suboptimal talisman or not fully master star gear, you can give up speed tuning for crit chance. You don't need 100% crit chance with that legion though. You need to get 100 crit chance with legion with a level 7 dungeon pot drank with a jellyfish. The M7 boss fight is mildly complicated, and even if you think you understand it, you might be doing it wrong, so let's get the complicated stuff out of the way first. Mage has an extremely vital role in boss because they need to gyro terrace 3 times. Everything is precise to tenths of a second, so if you don't already have them on, turn on SBE splits or skytill splits, and if you use the skytills, make sure you turn on decimals. First of all, we need to learn a little bit about how gyro works when you stand on a carpet. Carpets actually have a hitbox, so when you point at a block in gyro, it doesn't gyro the block you're looking at. If you're looking 1 block ahead, it gyros the block you're on, and then it gyros the block ahead of you if you're looking a few blocks ahead. So what you should be trying to do is gyro the block you are standing on by gyroing looking straight down, or even gyroing the block ahead of you, but most people gyro straight down. After you gyro, make sure to ice spray the terras, and if you're true mage, you can also LCM the terras. After that, go ice spray the next gyro that the archer does, and if you're true mage, help clean up the stray terras, then set up for your next gyro. As mage, you need to gyro the 1st, 3rd, and 5th gyros. Gyro times will vary depending on the archers. With high DPS archers like myself, I recommend gyroing at 13.2, 25.4, and 37.8 on the terra split. And for worse archers, it will vary based on the archer, but it's usually around 13.2 to start, 26 or 26.5 for the second gyro, and 39 or 40 for the last gyro. There is a possibility that if server lags, the terras can spawn early. So if you get an early spawn, try to adjust your gyros to make them a little faster. Now for the first gyro, you should be gyroing to this block in line with the front of the forwardmost pillar. You should be standing on the edge of the carpet on this side when you gyro. Your next 2 gyros should typically be in the middle of the terracotta blocks, again on the edge of the carpet. The point of gyroing on the edge of the carpet as opposed to the middle is to prevent terras from spreading out. Terras can't respawn on the carpet, so they go to the closest block on the edge. Keeping them all on one side and getting as close as possible to minimize the distance they travel to the gyro makes DPS more smooth and happen more instantly, which makes the tanks survive better and DPS just faster overall. After terras, you should go to the 2nd giant if you're true mage, or the 3rd giant if you're fake mage. mage. This is a good time for a true mage to swap from diamond head to storm helmet if you have it, but you really don't need to. If you do, middle click your armor to despawn your witherborn because it can block beam and gyro and just be annoying. No matter what giant you're on, you should ice spray your giant and then full DPS it. If your giant dies, you can help whatever giant is dying the slowest, like Kiki is helping me here on 4. If you're true mage, stand as close as you can without KBing it away to maximize your beam damage. Finally, gyro sedan on this block. The split time you gyro at varies slightly from run to run. Start off gyroing around 31.5 or 32, but eventually you'll get a feel for just when to gyro. It just comes with time. Now, Archer is probably the second most screwed up class, and honestly, my gameplay is not going to be an accurate representation of what most of you guys are going to be doing, because most of my viewers don't have Hypermax gear and Cata 50 and still not know how to arch correctly. However, you should still do the same thing I'm doing. DPS will just happen slower and it'll look a little less clean. Now, quick note, you should be using Nansorb arrows as arch on M6 because it improves your piercing enchant, which is absolutely insane for Terras. Once the Terra heads start turning, kill one of the 2 golems close to the mage and start shooting towards where the mage is going to gyro. The golem you kill doesn't matter, and you can also stand behind it instead of in the middle like I do. I just prefer standing in the middle. You kill golem here for a few reasons, mostly just because you can and it gives combat XP, which it looks cool to have, but if you're not careful, the golem can get in the way during second gyro. This matters mostly at lower catas when golems aren't a one-tap, but it's generally good practice to do it even at higher catas. Start running towards the mage slightly before Terras spawn to arrow stack on the first wave, or bunch up your arrows mid-air so a lot hit the Terras at once. Once the Terras die, run back and gyro a bit behind where the golems were to pick up all of the Terras and shoot them still facing towards the mage. One mistake a lot of people make is shooting away from the mage towards the back of the boss fight. You should never shoot Terras in that direction if you don't need to, because you don't want to spread out the Terras if you don't have to. After killing them, kill golems and try to clean up stray Terras as much as you can, but make sure to line up for the third wave of Terras in time. I like to line up close to the mage, almost parallel with the carpet, but other people line up in different ways. It's mostly a matter of preference. The important part here is that you are not only shooting at where the gyro will be, but also where the Terras will spawn to make DPS start happening instantly. Also, try to time your Explo shot so it hits the Terras the second they spawn on third wave. Knowing when they spawn comes with practice, but for me it's usually around 25.6, but sometimes faster and sometimes slower. The point of Explo shotting on third gyro as opposed to the fifth gyro is because you're lining up the spawn time to the Terras for the fifth gyro. Explo shotting on 3 will make them all die relatively at the same time, making them spawn at the same time on 5 and just end Terras faster. Explo shotting on 5 instead of 3 is bad because Terra spawn times will be spread out a lot, so you have to wait a few tenths of a second on your Explo shot in order to hit enough Terras to finish, which just slows down the run. After this, you should run back and shoot at the fourth gyro, which should be in a similar spot to the second gyro. Then go shoot the fifth gyro exactly like you did the third gyro, but without an Explo shot. After Terras, go to the first giant and stand so your arrows are shooting through the giant towards the second giant. Ice spray the first giant as you go down and keep shooting a bit at the second giant. You will have to shoot more or less depending on your party's DPS to the second giant. Like Kiki does really good DPS, so I'm shooting a lot less than I would in a party that doesn't do good DPS. Finally, arrow stack on the last giant, and then arrow stack an Explo shot sedan to finish the run. Now, tank is probably the next most complicated class to play, but only because of how much the gear requirements change based on Kata and how good your team is. Lower level tanks should use Goldor and a Blue Whale to tank Terras. You should use your Estrella for survivability, and maybe even Florid and Gloomlock if you're really having trouble surviving. After Terras, you should go to mid for giants. You should castle during giants, not Terras, and you can even use Bonzo Mask and Wither Cloak to minimize the amount of damage you take from giants. I recommend staying in Goldor for Sedan at low Katas, although you don't need the extra survivability items because Sedan phase is usually really fast. At higher Katas with better parties, you can tank in Necron with a Diamond Head and a Yeti pet, which is just a cheaper setup and less effort overall to switch. Then you can switch to G-Drag and just hit castle and help to DPS the third giant like I'm doing. But no matter what you're using as your gear, during Terras you should be standing here and ice spraying the mage's 3 gyros to increase the archer's DPS. As a Burrs, your job is relatively simple. Higher level Burrs can kill this golem, while lower level Burrs shouldn't because they won't have enough DPS to kill it fast enough. You should shoot at Terras in pretty much the same way the archer does, although as Burrs I typically take a steeper angle when shooting Terras and shoot them more directly into the wall than towards the back. You also need to gyro the fourth gyro, generally around the same spot arch gyro the second gyro when Terras start respawning. In a party with a fake mage and a low DPS archer, you should go to the second giant to help it die, then go to the third giant right after it dies. In a party with a high DPS archer that can solo both giants, or a real mage, you should go to the third giant and shoot through it so your shots go towards 4. Keep in mind that AOTS swapping is a bad idea on Terras because it blocks archers' arrows, but it's a good idea on giants if you can because it gives a lot of DPS that will also hit the fourth giant, although it is definitely not necessary. I just use a term. Also, remember to ice spray whatever giant you are killing as it spawns to keep it from moving. Finally, healer has the easiest job of all the classes. Your job is literally to get milestone. Lots of healers tether the tank, and at low Kata this can actually help the tank survive, but at high Kata isn't needed, it's just good practice. Once the tank is near and is in Goldor, if they're swapping to Goldor, go into this hopper and spam healing circle to heal yourself and gain milestone. When you get out of the hopper after Terras, you'll need to be careful because the fire will still tick on you, and if you get out of tank radius, it'll do a lot of damage, so it's not a bad idea to hold a stray and use Wither Impact in case it happens while trying to stay within the tank's radius. You shouldn't hold hold Australia while sitting in the fire because it'll make milestone go slower because you'll end up taking less damage. On giants, you should go to the third giant and ice spray it and DPS it. Also, wish right before giants start to help the tank survive. And that is a full guide on the M6 boss fight. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.